Hey everybody, welcome to the 1947 Rise podcast, a podcast that helps India born, US trained Indians get integrated into the Indian technology ecosystem and inspires them to move back to India to build massive tech companies and or help enable the tech ecosystem. We do this by interviewing India born, US trained Indians who have moved back to India and built massive tech companies themselves and or helped enable the tech ecosystem. I'm super pumped to have Nirmit on the show. I'll start by reading out a tweet that Nirmit had put out a few weeks back. In a short span of 21 months, we have touched 16 million lives through our app, and the story doesn't stop here. Man, you guys are on fire. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, let's unpack your story. Just walk us through your journey of growing up in India, then moving to US, and then moving back to India, and then building this amazing company, Apna.
Yeah, I can start. I can kind of zoom into my childhood and then start from there. So I'm born in a family of engineers. My granddad was an engineer. My dad is an engineer. And so always, at home there was this environment of you get any toy, you break it apart and see what is, and you try to do this. If the flush is not working inside home, tube light nahi chal raha hai, at that point of time you go and repair it. We never used to have a repairman, like you have to do it yourself. And then over the time I built this reputation in my society that this guy is the plumber, the tube light repair person, the electrician inside the society. And anywhere anything broke, घर पे call आता था, and then I go and I repaired it, and that's how my journey has been so far. And so did that. उसके बाद I think so college, and let me know if you want me to double click on any of the instance of life. Happy to double click.
Absolutely.
So in college I started my first company. So my first company is called Incon, and it is into dam automation. And I know
And
it's
this was in
super.
India?
This was in India,
Got
yeah. And I started in my second year of my engineering. I started Incon, and like dam automation is super unsexy, right? Generally, you will see a teenager person starting this company. You will see like a photo sharing app, a dating app. But there was this big floods on the west coast of Gujarat during my second year of my engineering, and that inspired me to solve the problem of floods. And while I was solving this problem of floods, I realized that if you could manage the flow of a water level of a moving river, you could also optimize hydroelectricity generation, and you could also optimize irrigation. So I decided to build a company around it. We have automated around 1100 megawatts of dam automation across the country so far. Built the company completely bootstrapped, and this was built pre Flipkart era. I think so. Flipkart era just changed everything in the Indian startup ecosystem. But it was built pre Flipkart era, and we used a bunch of machine learning there. It was called supervised learning back then. It was the fancy word of machine learning was not there. So build that. While building my first company, I started my second company. My second company is called Cruxbot, and very similar to the first company, it never started like a company. I think so. When I look back, all the companies which I've started so far, they've always been like side effect of a problem you solve, and then you realize it is not only your problem, but it is a lot of people's problem, and then you build a product around this. So I was on my first date with my girlfriend, who is now my wife, and we went to Crosswords. And generally, when how you select a book, right? You have the summary at the back cover of the book. You'll read the summary and you decide which book to read. And we were just chatting, and so she was a medical student back then, and she was telling how cool it would be if somebody could summarize anything which she reads on the web on the fly, because she used to read a lot of medical pages, medical papers and stuff. And she was telling me that, and so I go home and I wanted to impress the girl. Like I was like, it was a great date. I really really wanted to impress her. And so ended up, and it was also a Friday evening, so I had some time in the weekend, so I ended up writing a small piece of code which summarizes anything she reads on the web, and gifted it to her Monday morning. Now, of course, she got impressed,
Dang, man.
but
Who
but the
wouldn't?
side, sorry.
I was saying, who wouldn't?
Yeah, yeah. So my cheesy Bollywoodish line was like, जैसे मैंने तुम्हारा एक ख्वाब पूरा किया है, like तुम्हारे life के सारे ख्वाब पूरे करूंगा. So that was a cheesy Bollywood line, but yeah, I did, and it did work, luckily. And so, but the side effect, what happened is she started using my product, and a lot of her friends who were medical students also started using the product. And then उनको देख के a bunch of engineering students started using the product, and that small product started doing very well. 6 months later, we merged with No. So I built a company around that, and then we merged with No, and sold to and that sold to Intel. So Intel US acquired us, and Cruxport is now an Intel company, and that catapulted me to the to the US. Worked as director of data analytics there at Intel, and post that, and it was an interesting time at Intel, right? What I learned there, which was the most interesting thing, is like tab tak I'd built smaller companies, right? Like Incon is a small company, Cruxport is a small company. So, and which are very agile, right? And Intel is this multifaceted organization. So how do you balance this agility of a small startup and this discipline of this multifaceted organization? And for me, that how do you go and do that balance was something which I learned there. Interesting times. And post that, decided to go for an MBA. Now, couple of reasons to go for an MBA back then. I think so I was 26, 27 that year, and had been building back-to-back companies. And I met a bunch of interns from Stanford, and they were just, talking about is how wonderful their campus life is, how do they get to party multiple days a week, and how do they get a chance to explore themselves, and rediscover a bunch of these things. They talked about this course called Touchy Feely, which was very, very interesting, and a bunch of network effect and startup courses. So that was fascinating. And I felt this, FOMO that, oh, I need to learn this. I've been just, back to back building companies, thoda party karte hai, thoda seekte hai, it will be a good exercise. So that was one. The second reason was the girl whom I was dating was on her way to be a cardiologist now. She was on a degree number 3. So I went to this was this in-laws wala problem. So I went to meet her parents, and I was telling that, how much I like their daughter, and they're like, okay, so what's next in life? I'm like, I'm quitting my job, starting a company, and that is where things just went thoda downhill. And I understand. So their perspective was, starting a company is risk, right? Like the probability of the company to be successful is low. You start a company, the company doesn't do well. If the company doesn't do well, like a lot of times, if when your wife is studying well and is doing very well in life, and you are not, my again, this is a probability. My fragile male ego could be hurt, and because of that, it could result into some relationship distress. And I think it's a very, very interesting point, right? I understand from their perspective. My first, honest reaction was when I bola chalo bhag chalte, like parents will accept us. But then the second reaction was, no, we want to do it the right way. We want to make parents happy, and we wanted them to be there as a part of the wedding. It was probably one of the most important part of, and for her, she was always dreaming about this, big fat Indian wedding. So bola, and she had these dreams to wear this jewelry and stuff. And bola, like, I don't want to go and screw these dreams, and I want the parents to also have fun. So but anyways, MBA karna tha, so it just kind of just got connected and said, okay, chalo MBA kar lete. So I think so. Interestingly, India में अभी भी शादी के लिए डिग्री होना जरूरी है, मास्टर्स डिग्री होना जरूरी है. So jokes apart, that was the second reason. Third and the most interesting reason, and I think so, that is, while I was building Cruxpod and I was building Incom, on other end of the world, somebody built an Instagram, somebody built a WhatsApp, and my first reaction when I saw this company is, this is a messenger, or this is a photo sharing app. Little did I know about something called network effects, and of course that network effects have played a very crucial effect in every decision which I've taken post that, and I'll talk a bit about that as we kind of go deeper into the journey at Apna. But I came to know about this thing, and the concept was very interesting, right? That every user you add should create more value for every other user in the ecosystem, and because of that, people will not switch, and that creates natural moats. So say today, you and I, we raise $1 billion to build a better Instagram. Can we build a better product? Maybe, but can we go and beat Instagram? No, it's very tough, because still the intrinsic value of a new product is not higher than the network value which Instagram has. Because we go to Instagram for network value. It's not about photo and filters. It's about all of your friends are there. You can see them and they can see what you're doing. Then the intrinsic value of the same product is not higher than the network value of the incumbent. People are not going to switch. And for me, this concept was fascinating. I was like, oh, I need to learn this, right? And so all these three things put together, decided to go to business school. Got into Stanford, and next 2 years were wonderful. Did a bunch of things, partied a lot. Then post my MBA, got married. Degree हाथ में लेके शादी किया. Just kidding. And third one, learned how do you build network effect businesses. And fourth, met a lot of interesting people in that journey, right? Some of them are my bestest friends. Some of them I work day in day out at at Apna. So and found my cohort of my people. So very, very, I think so turned out to be a very, very good decision. And post business school, worked at Apple, and post Apple started Apna. And yeah, so that's the journey so far. Again, happy to deep dive into the Apna journey, like even why build Apna in the first place. But
Yeah.
happy to answer any cues you want to double click on anything.
Yeah. No, so I'll step back a little bit. When you were meeting your now wife's parents, before revealing that, hey, I'm leaving my job, did you say कि आ गया हूँ मैं, लड़के देखना बंद कर दो?
Like I think when we started dating, and we knew, I just went and met them, and I think so, and I had a very, very honest conversation, and they were also very honest. They also had a very honest conversation with me. I think so. It was interesting. Today, I am like there. So my wife has a brother, and so I'm so they have a son and daughter. But and I'm the third son, so I'm the most loved son amidst all three of us. So that's great. And so yeah, so turned out to be good, a great decision in life, and that did help. Yeah.
Love it. No, Nirmit, you've been a fixer, problem solver, and you've been very thoughtful around, the things that you want to do. You were being very thoughtful about, how you wanted to pursue your MBA, and then, of course, you learned those things, the things that you wanted to learn. Then you decided to move back and start Apna. So let's talk about how did the idea come about and the journey.
Right. So see, when you think about unemployment, you think about education, you think about poverty. These are earth scale problems. And I still remember in my third standard, we had this subject called social studies, and that there was this component called civics. And you ask like, what are the top 3 problems of the world, and this is what we used to write. So honestly, it didn't start that with this grand vision that you want to go and solve these problems and go and change the world. Being brutally honest here, the vision got grander with time. It started with a very, very, very small problem. Was like in my first company, and like in Con, hiring was always a problem. Now it is part of a family business. So me and my dad were brainstorming that, boss, hiring is not happening. I ended up also talking to my hiring manager, and we were like, why you're not using a bunch of tools and softwares which are available in the market? And he's like, nahi ho raha yaar, aapse ho raha hai, then you try it. So I took that challenge, and I used a bunch of things inside the market, and none of these pieces were working for me. We used to take like 8 to 9 days to hire, say, a good candidate. And so ended up, building a small prototype, which just worked, right? We could kind of complete the hiring within 3 to 4 hours. And that was good. So, and ended up talking to a bunch of founders inside the space, who shared my idea. realized couple of things. One, most of the companies inside the space, right, they were tech enabled operations company, and building an operations company, my worry was the unit economics might not work out. It could. It's a, I don't know, I've not tried it, so difficult to say, but that's my hypothesis. The second thing was that everybody was looking from an employer standpoint. Rarely people are looking at candidates. And if you see, this is like, it's a matchmaking, and you have to look at both the sides of the market with equal love. And so these two problems, and after talking to a bunch of folks who have tried in the past, who were doing something, while coming back on the on the plane, I was thinking, coming, so I was flying from Bangalore to Ahmedabad, thinking this is like 96% of the country we are talking about, which comes in this rising working class segment. So I think so, during the throughout the podcast, I'll try to refer this category as a rising working class. I think so, we have been, we have kind of color coded it as blue and gray and white. I think so, there's no need to color code. It's just so we refer this as rising working class, so I'll be referring that in the podcast. So this category is a huge category. Actually, it's the backbone of the country, and I felt like maybe I can try something inside the space. But before going and doing something, I said, let me kind of go deeper and see if I enjoy it, or am I the right person to even build for this space. See, you cannot build a company like this sitting out of a ivory tower in a glass office. This is a company you have to spend time with the individuals, understand them. The employer point of view I always had, because like started companies, worked with corporates. My dad runs an SMB. We see this problem day in day out. But candidate side problem I didn't know. And a lot of times, the book says that you go and have user conversations. That's right. I think that approach would have not worked out inside this system, because of the power imbalance which you and the user has. And that they will try to project and be what they ideally want to be, rather than what they really are. Think about this, right? You tell a 7 8 year old kid what you want to do, and he's like, oh yes, I want to be a good boy, I want to be a good girl, I will do my homework very well, because that's what they want to project. But like, when at least I can speak for myself, when I was like 8 9 7 years old, I used to I used to like watching cartoons. I used to enjoy painting walls. I used to play video games. I used to do all bunch of fun things. That's what I really wanted to do. So very similar to that. And the only where people reveal the real secret, or what's really happening with them, or the way they really work, is when they find that comfort to talk to you. So that is where I decided the best way to have this comfort and really observe people is to go undercover. So I've been a shop floor guy, I've been a foreman, I've been a cashier, I've been an electrician, did a bunch of things. I've also been this, I don't know what you call this person who serves ice cream, right? So it is, I was not a waiter, but ice cream counter ke piche you come and you serve it. So I did that thing also for a side gig once. So when I spent time with these people, I realized two or three very interesting things, right? Let me first talk tactical stuff, and then I will talk something very, very emotional. Uh, Tactically, one, most of these people, they don't have a resume, they have skills, and everyone was trying to put them into this standard resume based approach, which the white collar audience have, and or which we have seen in the West. Because see, generally people, the jobs and the skills are very fungible inside this category. So it has to be skill driven. That was like the first thing tactically understood. The second thing, if you see, 80% of the jobs actually come from this from the non-formalized networks. And what do I mean by that? The job could be formalized, but still, like say, when I want to hire a painter generally knows other painter, and that is how we get a painter inside the factory. Or I'm looking for a salesperson. The salesperson has worked with this field salesperson, and they're like, okay, I'll go and bring my two friends along, and they will come and work. And 70 to 80% of the jobs get filled that way. So if it was just an economical marketplace or like a classified, it would not have worked. You have to add the social element, because that is how the nature of the market is. So in this target segment, the socio-economic threading is so much enclosed with each other. You have to build a socio-economic network. And if you see Apna, the structure of Apna, it is a market network where a marketplace marries a social network. And the reason to build a market network is not that, okay, of course, market network are the most precious networks to build because they return a lot of value to shareholders, but that fits with the market. It fits with how we day in day out, like in India, your social and work life is very much fused with each other, and particularly inside this target segment, it is even more fused. So it just naturally made sense to build a market network for this. So that was the other key decision which I took. But again, these are all very logical decisions. Like, you always need this final, like, thing that that just tips the jar. And for me, that was like when I spent more time. So there was this guy called I'm not going to name the person because I know this person well, and I'm going to just, let's say, Mukesh. I'm just going to keep the identity separate. So this guy called Mukesh, who was a network, like he had done some network wale courses, and you have this ITIK vocational courses where you do this IT network wale courses. So he had done this course, and we were just chatting, and this guy was making 4,000 rupees. मैंने बोला, like, you go and work for a big company, like a Mahindra, Tata, and you can make 15,000-20,000 rupees. So bole, and I'm going to use the language verbatim, and it might be a bit crude and bit raw, but just I don't want to mince my words here because it's important to understand the emotion. कि यार मेरा औकात ही नहीं है कि मैं वो कि मुझे वो जॉब मिलेगा. मैंने बोला क्यों? तो क्या नहीं मिलता? Like, he was not ready to even apply to that job. Like, can you imagine? Job tha.
Mm-hmm.
I showed him an app because Apna was not existing at that point. Another app, and that was a job. The person had this app downloaded on the phone. The person was not applying to the job. But then luckily through my contact, I found somebody who had worked in his from the same community, like generally the slum. Somebody who had worked there. उसके साथ उसको कनेक्ट करवाया, बोले कि नहीं अप्लाई करो. दैट थिंग जस्ट बूस्टेड दिस पर्सन's confidence. This person ended up applying and got a 14,000 rupee job. Now from a 3,000-4,000 rupee to 14,000, it's a big leap, right? It's an astronomical leap, right? If you think, because that just is life changing. Like 14,000 overall number wouldn't matter, but from 4,000 to 14,000 is a huge leap. And this guy was just happy. Okay, so that was that point, right? I realized that there's this champion sitting in every single person here, but somewhere people have built this glass ceiling. And what is Apna? Apna is this arsenal which we want to provide to people to just go and break apart this glass ceiling. There should not be a glass ceiling for me or anyone, say any person from any race, any region. And how can we give them this arsenal to break the glass ceiling? That is what Apna is. And interestingly, like during all these things were going, I was in this emotional thing, and I was watching this movie Gully Boy. And Gully Boy had this. I don't know if you watched that movie, but there's this Murad who is the main character, and he's a aspiring hip hop artist who wants to become this musician, and he comes from also a lower middle class background, and against all elitism and everything, he breaks apart this to become this music sensation. And in this thing, there's this beautiful conversation with Murad's dad and Murad, and the conversation says, he says that he talks about his dream, and his dad says, हम गरीब लोग हैं, हमको सपना देखने का हक नहीं है. And then he says, very beautiful dialogue, मैं अपना सपना नहीं बदलूंगा जो मेरे सच्चाई से मेल खाए, अपनी सच्चाई बदलूंगा जो मेरे सपनों से मेल खाए. So just to translate for audience who don't understand Hindi, his dad is telling that we are lower middle class people, we are not rich, we don't have a right to dream. And then he says, I would rather, change my reality rather than changing my dream. It was just very moving. And by the way, the name of the company is Apna Time. Like, Apna is a short name, it's which we have, but it's the name of the company. If you see, it's Apna Time. So that's pretty inspired by that. And if you see in this movie also, there's this friends, this guy meets MC Sher, who and then meets, and MC Sher connects him to Sky. This is like the network of Apna, and I say this market network, right? Apna's professional network. And then there's this place where this person goes and showcases the skills, and it's a feed of Apna. So that's where the product started coming together. And yeah, so that's where I started really spending time and building Apna. Yeah.
No, I mean, few things. Look, first, the mission is just amazing. It's inspiring. It's emotional, and now it makes sense why the company is growing super fast. You already reached, I think, 14 million users. A lot of the capital is already in the bank, and most importantly, I think you've been very, very methodical and thoughtful of the problem that you're going after. Nirmit, what's the magical outcome that you have in mind for Apna?
Right. Yeah. And so the magical outcome, right, is let me talk about something. So in America, there's a Statue of Liberty which showcases the American dream. They talk about you can come from any race, any region, and you can be whomever, whatever you want. That's that's a concept, right? Similarly, think about the Apna app, right? You can come from anywhere. You can come from a Delhi, a Ghaziabad. You can be a Hindu, you can be a Muslim, you can be a Christian. You can come from a middle class family, you can come from the most aristocratic family, or you can come from a lower middle class family. Doesn't matter. You come on the platform. We solve for the network gap. We find you people whom you can talk, you can learn from, and we then provide you with the right opportunities. So that's Apna, right? The goal of Apna is to help people connect with opportunities. And that's this prime goal. Like, you can be anything. There should not be any glass ceiling for you, right? If you see that, like, anybody can dream, and if you have it in you, you be that person, right? Without ever feeling, or without anybody telling that no, you cannot do it. And that's the entire ethos of Apna. And if you see, the entire app is actually designed with this. So one of the major reason, like, what has really worked for Apna, I think, so if I kind of just think about it and step back, it's three things, right? One is insane. I'm using the word insane twice because it is actually insane customer obsession, where we have really tried to understand what the person really wants, and we have designed the app like that, and we do this even today. So today, even we have a team, we call it our sensory nervous system team, which talks to 40, 50, 60,000 users every single day, one on one, on phone, on chat, just to understand what they like about the app, to understand their life, what they want, and that gets churned into insights that come to us, and we keep building features. So that's the first piece, is insane customer obsession. Second is mathematics. One is you can have the best customer obsession, you can design the best product, but what it takes to win the market, what it takes to reach, and it's mathematics. So see, Apna is a network effect business, and network effects are function of mathematics. Think about this: every user who comes on the ecosystem adds value for every other user in the. So every carpenter comes, adds value for every other carpenter, every other interior designer on the ecosystem, every other person who does polish in the ecosystem. Every plumber adds value to every other mason, every other plumber in the ecosystem. At the same time, all these users also add value to every other job in the ecosystem, because now more people can apply to jobs. So recruiter, and now every job you bring on the table adds value to all the other users in the ecosystem. So there is multitude of network effects happen. And let's say there are variety of factors that move this. So we have created this 4,000 levers inside our company. And basically, if you come and attend a meeting at Apna, and a lot of times we allow people to come and attend meetings at Apna, a lot of external people, because we run the business with mathematics. It's pure mathematics. Every decision is mathematically driven. I wouldn't say we are data driven. We are data informed, but mathematically driven. And a bunch of these decisions which we have taken has allowed us to. So we were a challenger in the market when we started. Now we are like a clear cut, undisputed market leader in our category. So it's because of the math. We got the math right. So that's the second piece. And the third piece is more the way of working. We are very ruthless with prioritization. Extremely ruthless with prioritization. We know, I think so the idea is we decide what are the things we want to say no to, we remove that, and then we just prioritize. We are very focused about what we keep building. And I think so these three things has really worked out in Apna's favor.
Love it. And so look, Nirmit, from far, it looks like things are going for you. You know, things are just in your favor, but a lot of the times the reality is something else. So I'll throw a couple of questions. One is, what do you struggle with? And secondly, when things are not working out, what frameworks or what questions do you ask yourself?
Right. So struggle, see, as an entrepreneur, you have your own ups and downs, right. It is because wherever Apna is today is because of the history of the actions which I and the team have taken. Whatever is going to happen tomorrow is function of where we are today and what actions which we are going to take. So it's more like every day is a battle, and it's a war, right? You have to go and finally go and win the war. So you have to keep strategizing, you have to keep prioritizing, you have to keep running your mathematics. What got us here is not going to take us there. So having a very clear frame of mind. A lot of times we get tempted, oh, we did this thing right, why not do this again? No, it's not going to work out. Think about it. Say early stage startup, you are like more like this, pirates, where you hustle, you get things done, you are hacky, and just make it work. But pirates will work in a certain size, right? If you've watched, and I think so, any pirate movie, 10-15 pirates do really well. You put 40 in a room, they'll kill each other, right? So you have to then start becoming a navy at the end of the day. Now the beautiful thing about navy is a process, things are there. But the challenge with navies are big, heavy things. They move very slow. So how do you manage that agility of, again, and that is where this Intel, Apple, Cruxbot, all these experiences have kind of come together. So the decision, if you say like what I struggle with, and yes, I thought I told about that this is my superpowers as a company, but they are also something which we have to keep improving. So I still struggle with them. Are we ruthlessly prioritizing enough? Second thing, like along with ruthless prioritization, is, are we building the right team? Because see, 0 to 1 and 1 to 10 of the team is about how do you get the PMF right. The 1 to 10 is about how do you scale the PMF. 10 to 100 is how do you scale decision making inside the company. And that's a very different ball game. 0 to 1, like a founder will be basically, if there is no chair, is going to go and integrate the IKEA chair. If at a 10 to 100 I'm integrating an IKEA chair, yes, I'm an humble founder, but I'm a stupid founder. I need to find the right person to integrate that IKEA chair for me, because I have to ruthlessly prioritize my time. So it's a very different mindset. So it's not only that the company is going through this, the shifts. I'm personally going through the shifts. So always keep checking, like, am I doing right things at the right time? And it's hard, right? Because there's no right answer. You struggle with, and you it's like a PID controller. You keep improving and trying to see if you can optimize to the best. So that's the first piece. Can you repeat the second question? I want sorry I
Yeah. So when things are not working out
Hmm.
for you, what frameworks or what questions do you ask yourself and try to figure things out?
Okay, so a couple of things I do when things are not working out, right? One, and does this happen multiple times? Yes, it happens multiple times. So just to be brutally honest, to that it is not that it happens once or twice and then there is this great revelation. Nahi. Every single time it could be a smaller problem, big problem, things don't work out. So when things don't work out, I end up watching a movie. For me, watching movies is like meditation because it takes my mind away from work. And generally people say meditation means you go and focus. I enjoy watching movies. I focus in a movie, and then when I kind of come out, I a lot of times have a solution. And of course I know my mind is at the background working, but it has worked out pretty well. So that is one trick which I use. The second trick is I end up talking to my parents and my wife. I think so. Generally, as an entrepreneur, I spend 18, 19 hours working. So a lot of times, like you take that break and spend time with your family, and then again, that's meditation for me. So I don't do this fancy, mindfulness meditation. Only hota hai mere se. For me, there are certain things, friends, family, movies are my meditation. So do that. And generally, to be very honest, there is no specific trick or framework. Answer aa jata hai. I would be lying if I force fit a framework for this. Yeah, for other decision making, I have my frameworks and it works. But a lot of times you figure it out, and a lot of times, even if you don't figure it out, it is a decision which you took at that time. It could be right, it could be wrong. You don't know. You're only going to able to connect dots later in life, right? You cannot connect dots at this point of time. And a lot of times, decision which I took something, I think so it was the most right decision I could take at that moment, and I make peace with it. So I think the most important is making peace with the decision which you have taken, and that just releases off a lot of pressure. And a lot of times in pressure, you take wrong decisions because you're just worried about taking the decision wrong, and the worry of taking the decision wrong will not allow you to take bold bets. So I always think if a decision even goes wrong, that was the best I did at that point of time, and it's okay. It's okay to make a mistake. The most important is everybody makes a mistake. Is how fast you can course correct it, and that ability to be honest with yourself and course correcting the mistake kind of is important.
Nirmit, your story is very inspiring. You probably won't know for now. People don't know their own values, but and of course, Apna is going to end up becoming a generational company, in the years to come, and a lot of, this is going to be very inspiring for a lot of people in India and Indians living abroad. And I talked to a lot of people who are thinking about moving back to India because that's what the podcast has been about. And you'll be amazed, folks who are leading, growth roles or product roles or companies, iconic companies like Coinbase, Uber, and all that. They all are thinking about moving back to India, and there's gonna be movement at some point, I think. And Nirmit, what advice would you give to these folks? They've been thinking, but why don't you just go ahead and just, take the plunge and go, make the move? Like if someone is thinking about moving back to India, what frameworks or how should they, kind of navigate their move or thought process around moving back to India?
Right. So let me talk about one thing, right? I used to like use this example a lot. Is see there was a startup which started like almost like now 70 years ago, and that startup is undergoing crazy blitzscaling. Better help its startup, and that startup is India. We got freedom in 1947. We started with some dreams, right? And yes, we have got the PMF right. We have got everything right. Now we are India is currently blitzscaling. So that's one. That's the logical pitch. Now I'll talk about the emotional pitch. So first and foremost, right, is I always believe in this philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that whole world is a family. So for me, borders are generally man-made, and it's okay. Having said that, is a there is this place which has helped you kind of grow, helped you be what you are. That's the air you breathed, right? And the land that nourished plants which you ate, or right, and everything. So there is always a sense of, like, you have to, and I know, like, the country or region, nature is like mother, right? They always give, and they will never ask in return. But you always have to kind of, as children, you always, and when you kind of grow up, there is some sense of responsibility. And again, this is for India or to the world, right? So do something which is sustainable, do something where you kind of go and give back to the community. And just a bit of nuance, right? To be brutally honest here, is it could be okay, you could be anywhere in the world and you can still do it. And so I shuttle between India and US. My wife is still completing her training here in the US, as a cardiologist, and I spend 50% of time in both the countries, and I make it work, and it's hard a lot of times. But A, if you enjoy building what you're building, and B, you have a way to kind of pay back and take care of your motherland, right? As you grow, and I think so. Why not do it?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think you've provided a very unique example where you can literally build company living anywhere, right? You're spending 50% of the time in India and the other in US, and of course you're building a product that's been created in India and for the global.
Yeah.
Nimit, would love to get to know you at a deeper level now. Any dark time of failure that set you up for later success?
Yes, a bunch actually. So
Do you have a favorite failure of yours?
yeah, I'll talk about something, right? Which is the first thing. So a lot of times, a lot of times, like, the first thing that comes to your head is the main thing. So let me talk about that. So when I was building my first company in Con, I wanted to do this. I started to solve for floods, right? And I built a system which solves for flood. I built a system which was wonderfully working, wonderful, and I wrote to a bunch of companies inside the space. Ended up meeting some of the companies inside the space, and told about, that I've built this beautiful flood forecasting and control system. And what majority of this company said is, they gave me a pat on the back. They said this is fantastic, but nobody wanted to implement it. I said, but this is going to change life. It is going to help people. But I think so. They were struggling with two things. This is a 19-year-old kid telling them to build mission critical. These are like multi-crore mission critical systems, right? And B, there is no incentive for these companies to go and build that system, because there is no ROI. This whole concept of ROI. I used to read this book called Icon, by Steve Jobs, and all these other books. So when I built a system, I felt that, okay, I'm going to go and become this big shot, and I'm going to do this. You start with these dreams, right? You start visualizing, dreaming about stuff. So I had all these dreams, and I told all my friends that, I'm starting up, and this is this company I'm going to build, and this company is going to be this big company, and all these things. And maybe it was honest or naive of me, I don't know, but I was honest at that point of time. And then I met a bunch of companies inside the space, and everybody said, awesome work, but thank you. I came home that day evening. I come home and I cried like a baby, because it's all the dreams I've been dreaming of the last 2 years. None of these things were working. And my initially my parents thought that I'm going through a breakup, and I'm like, no, it's not that. It's like, generally, like, a teenager crying generally end up through breakup. So it's like, no. I said, I want to build this, and I've dreamt about this, and it's not working. And so then we had dinner, everything went well. Next day morning, I woke up. My dad is like, "Nirmit, let's go and pluck some tomatoes." So in Ahmedabad, in front of our house, we had a small garden, jahan pe we used to grow tomatoes and cucumber and all these pieces, which was pet project with my mom I was doing. So I and my dad go, and we start to pluck tomatoes. And he's like, pluck them. And I said, these tomatoes are the green, like they're raw. Why do we pluck it? He's like, no, pluck it. I'm like, no, it doesn't make sense. He's like, that is what I'm trying to say. I said, what do you mean? He's like, your ideas, they're raw. They still need some work. Once they're ripe, they'll be perfect. And that conversation, right? And of course, we had more detailed conversations like, Nirmit, it's not only about doing good, but how would you get into the system if you don't build an ROI? Because it is, even from a business standpoint, it's a fiduciary duty of any business to bring ROI to stakeholders. Like, yes, you have a great system, but still it doesn't have an ROI, no company is going to take it. So that's where I started thinking that, yes, the whole thing about this, if you go and if I can, because what I could do, what the flood control system allowed is to manage water levels. And if I could manage a water level of a flowing river, I could also optimize hydroelectricity generation and irrigation. So it's the same company, same product, switched out the variables, and basically made this as a system that not only flood control became more like a side feature, but it was exactly the same product. So it could definitely solve for flood control, but did that. And that, from that time onwards, every single time I think of an idea, I always think about, is it sustainable enough? Yes. So similarly, even when we were thinking about Apna, and we wanted to go and basically go and solve this problem of hiring, solve this problem of poverty and education. At that point of time, I always think, yes, I want to do good, but if it is not sustainable, it is not okay. So that's where you have this entire double bottom line approach, and all the companies that have started in the past, everything has a double bottom line approach, where you do good, but you also create enough value for your shareholders so that you can keep scaling doing good without begging somebody for money. Because the day you beg, you become puppet of the person donating money, and then your decision and everything starts getting influenced. So for me, if you ask what was this one incident of failure that changed life, so it was not, so failure was one thing, but the most important was this tomato conversation, right? That was interesting enough. I still use this framework every single time I try to do that.
Oh yeah, no, it was such a great lesson, and yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's all about just staying at it for long enough, and eventually you'll get what you deserve. And the good, I mean, the sustainable part that you picked up is this author called Derek Sivers, very smart author, and he talks about do things or do only those things that are sustainable in life. And Nirmit, if money, attention, fame are not needed anymore, what would you work on?
Same thing. To be very honest, right? See, like, I don't know, when I started Apna, given a bunch of people had tried to build companies in this space, and everybody said this is a hard space to be in. When I was starting up, I still remember a lot of like good wishes, well wishes. Like, again, no, nothing. They didn't mean to have any harm. Tell me that, Nirmit, why would you build something inside the space, right? You are a seasoned entrepreneur. You can do something. Build a machine learning company. Build this. Build that. Why the space? And I said, it doesn't matter if I'm successful, I'm not. Somebody has to solve this, right? It it's and the space. See, if you see globally, the population is 3 billion people in terms of the workforce. Out of that, 2.3 billion people are in this rising working class category. This category has been systematically ignored, and it's a big enough problem to solve, right? So the idea is, I just wanted to try to solve it, right? The rest all are side effects, as I said. And would I, and even like, say today Apna, say tomorrow doesn't do well, would I still keep doing it? Yes, I will keep doing it. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep trying. And because every life we change, like, what is the most wonderful thing today? I wake up to 40, 50, 60,000 thank yous a day. Where see, when you work 19 hours a day, what motivates you to next day wake up again, and after a 4 or 5 hour sleep cycle, and do, and again come back to be in this situation to solve problems, is those messages, like, you people say that, thank you so much because of the job, I could now, pay for my kids' education, or because of you, I could do my mother's surgery. And when you read this, when you have these conversations, right, it just energizes you that, like, we are doing some good, we are changing the world, like, one job at a time. And so, yes, I would still do the same thing. I would keep doing, and I'm going to keep trying to do, no matter what. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's this philosophy called Stoicism, and one of the Stoics was Marcus Aurelius, who was basically, one of the most powerful and richest emperor in the world. So he would ask this question where, hey, someone is going to do it, someone has to do it. Why not me? Let's make this my purpose. And with this, Nirmit, loved it. Thanks for making the time, telling us about your personal life, your story, Apna's mission. I think it's super, super inspiring, and yeah, had a great, great time. Thanks a lot.